Well, so great to be here. And thank you everyone for also staying for this final session. We're going to be discussing venture growth and especially the next wave of it. What will it be defined by, especially looking more at the data lens as well as on the diversity side. I'm joined here with Moore, and Moore, you have such an interesting background. I loved our kind of prepping discussions around where venture growth has gone to, but I'd love to just kick off with a little bit more information in terms of, what was really the catalyst behind starting iAngels?
Fantastic. Thank you everyone for having me. I'll give you a short background. So I'm a tech girl, grew up around tech, studied mathematics and computer science for my bachelor. I was a coder for many years. Then after my MBA at Columbia University, I transitioned to strategy roles, working very closely with leadership teams at companies like IBM and Amdocs. So that really gave me a lot of in-depth and front row seat to how large organizations are working with younger companies, looking for new disruptive technologies to embed, looking at acquisition targets. And that's how I first started iAngels about 13 years ago, with the mindset that we want to kind of institutionalize angel investing. So you want to bring all the knowledge, like the enterprise knowledge of how to work with young companies, how to help them grow through that growth mindset. And couple that with the ability to create a very vast network of investors that can go together and have that really influence on the company and come in together and have a very strong material shareholder rights for the life of the investment. So we started iAngels with that notion. Today we have about almost 2,000 investors, families, high net worth individuals from 60 different countries in the world. We've invested to date about $550 million into approximately 120 companies, had 27 profitable exits. And throughout this journey, and this is always kind of like the jaw dropper, I am also a mother of 5 children and also married to a fintech entrepreneur, Yoni Asya, CEO and founder of eToro, who also IPO'd on NASDAQ last year. So you can only imagine what my life looks like on a day-to-day basis. But really happy for you to have me here and to kind of deep dive into what's interesting next.
I love that. I feel like there's no better person than to discuss, especially from a venture growth perspective, the last couple of years, and then having a forward look in terms of what that means for founders who are building, currently, some of the challenges, especially with new technologies, especially the AI wave, and how to build not only scalable companies, but profitable companies, right? So would love to just dive deeper into that. So when you're starting to look at some of the lessons learned over the last couple of years, how does that project into, what's to come, really building as a founder today? And what are some of the most important tools that you think founders today need to actually invest in as they're building venture-backed businesses?
Okay, there were like 20 questions there. Let's try to kind of unpack it. Maybe start from the top. I think what many people understand, what has happened with capital markets, and just being here in the conference this week, everybody was talking about capital markets and what it looks like, but it does have a lot of impact on private markets as well. Because if capital markets, everything is going down, or companies that are now penalized for not being profitable companies, and you can't IPO at 100x revenue, you actually need to show profitability, that completely changes the mindset of how companies are being evaluated and what's the value of companies. And that trickles down all the way down the value chain to very early stage companies. So as at venture, I try to think of companies and try to see what is the end goal, right? And if they cannot IPO after 3 years at 100x revenue, what can they do? And then you have to kind of backtrack that to where we are today and what can create outsized performance for my investors. And that's what drives me. At iAngels, I want to make sure that I'm going in at solid terms, great teams. But even now, the whole origination process is somewhat shifted, because I want to see now, from a relatively early stage, I want to see much more validation to the product. I want to be able to talk to customers or potential customers or design partners to understand what is their willingness to pay, how fast can this scale, how sustainable is this business model. And it's no longer just investing in two guys in a deck. And I think it's actually like the same thing to do. What we saw in 2021 was really kind of a roller coaster. Where was it? It was a founder's like Neverland. And now everything is going back still to kind of a little bit more conservative approach. Even for my founders, I always recommend, try to be a little bit more conservative, always have wiggle room. What happens if the climate stays unattractive for investment and you need to pedal through 24 months and not just 18 months or less? So you always really have to keep it in mind. And then I'm going to kind of weave that, diversity element into it. It's actually interesting that women do it very well, sometimes better than men. That kind of, I'm going to do what I say to do, and I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and a little bit true to my team. And that sometimes actually serves them better than having very, very ambitious dream or aggressive dream, but then you kind of find yourself in that pitfall that you can't raise. So it's not been an amazing few years for founders, but we do see a lot of recovery, and it's definitely relevant to sectors. It's definitely sector specific. Things that are much more out in the outlook require FDA, require joint ventures, require facilities. That's going to be harder. Things that are much more scalable and are leveraging AI and data now, as we're kind of, I want to say embarking, we kind of already embarked and we're already kind of 2,000 miles an hour on that ship, the data era and the AI era. So I think that showcases a much stronger ability to grow and gain kind of market share in a much more constructive way. For us, coming from home, that's like the bread and butter of what we bring is usually AI, fintech, enterprise software, cybersecurity. But I think AI is going to really trickle in all aspects of not only innovation, but also to make sure that you're competitive and that your company is able to grow faster than competition, or at least in alignment with what's going on. Because it's not only about product development. I don't know a single R&D team today that doesn't leverage AI to be able to code faster or test your product faster. But it goes all the way through organizational efficiency. It could be communication within the organization. It could be finance. It could save you money to be able to extend runway another 3 months or another 6 months in a young company's life. It's lifetime. But also customer interface or customer experience. Just think that there's a lot of talk, by the way, about Z-Genners or about kind of like a younger audience, and they really expect a certain customer experience, certain even usability graphics. And so with that kind of click of a button, TikTok generation, whatever it is, you really have to try to think how you embed these AI capabilities into launching new products, launching a fantastic experience, running social, so it could really help the business, and it almost doesn't matter what your actual business does. And with that in mind, just think about all the implication about cybersecurity, about infrastructure, about everything that's required in order to kind of run that engine.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, being a founder myself, I definitely have seen how impactful it's been building now and enabling our teams, right, to build just leaner and smarter and more efficient businesses with a lot less cost base that it previously took. I'm very interested to understand as well as, like, you talk about the, how founders or companies can leverage AI, right, in order to get to better unit economics. But what does that look like from the venture side perspective in terms of leveraging some of these, especially historical data points, in order to think about what type of companies should I invest in and what's the next growth trajectory there?
So I'll kind of try to split it, because I think kind of the last question will cover some of the AI element, but data is really key. Because for your engine to work well and to have a very small margin of error, you're really reliant and dependent on huge amount of data and how accurate is that data really is. So I think there's kind of a rush towards the data gold, I would call it, so that you can really amplify your solution and show your customers, whether it's enterprise or consumer, how you're kind of better than the benchmark. And also, I think that there's a lot of, I want to say, legacy systems where there's a lot of data and a lot of information, but they're not necessarily applicable, and you just can't throw them back into the machine because either they're unstructured or they're scattered across multiple databases because there's been consolidation in specific markets, and you need to kind of make sense of that. So I saw, for example, like a lot of solutions that are trying to take all that and kind of put it in a single form so that you can apply, AI methodologies on top of those data sets. And I think for many companies that I've spoken to, where I ask them, okay, now like I have AI, maybe I can just, develop it by myself. And they say, like, the data sets that we have, and we've been working on this for 2, 3, 4 years, are second to none. And if anyone even starts to figure this out now, it's going to take them 2 years. Doesn't matter how strong as AI is. So I think that's really important to remember. And just like, something that always interests me, and I've started to kind of research it a little bit more, I think it will have application in some exciting new sectors, like, for example, in health or longevity, because there's a lot of data that we can collect. And how can we apply that data towards medicine in a new way that was not possible 2 or 3 years ago? Because you can run things faster, you can find new molecules, you can stimulate and see how different people respond to different types of medicine. So all these calculations and kind of compute power that's enabled today that was not enabled in the past are gonna, I think, create some great innovation in the coming few years. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I recently met a founder who's actually just moved here to the region and is building ultimately solutions towards sickle cell anemia, but it's because of that data availability now that's possible, right? Just kind of moving on, right? Again, like, you've been in the venture space for quite some time, so you have a really good lens of where we stand in terms of looking at it more from a diversity perspective of representation. How have you seen that landscape change in terms of, again, seeing more women, within the space as well, and where do you think we've gotten to in terms of ensuring that there's more diversity within that?
So it's a question I like to answer, because I think on one hand, being here and seeing like so many women in the audience is really, inspiring. I think it's a very important dialogue that we have, and a kind of a handshake and commitment that we uphold to ourselves and to people that we come in touch with, to kind of, take it forward and make sure that we really support each other. Some interesting stats, I don't even know if people are aware, but women are actually, as founders globally, they receive about 2 or 3% of funding. This is crazy. It's crazy. iAngels were a women-founded, women-led partnership. Myself and my partner Shelly, and all of our management team are women. And people ask me if it was intentional. And I said, I always hire the best person for the job. But I think I get a lot of inbound because we're women, so we have I call it like the special forces of VC. We have amazing people working for us. We also have men working for us, don't worry. But it's a really exciting journey to, on one hand, be very technical and very, very relevant in terms of that discussion as a venture capitalist, but also be that kind of really cool organization where diversity is really profound and kind of embraced. For our portfolio at iAngels, by the way, about 20% of our portfolio companies have a woman on the founding team or leadership, but it's actually 43% of the best performing portfolio companies have a woman on the founding team or leadership. So it actually says a lot about, and specifically I think in this, as we're kind of embarking on 2026, it's interesting because it's been very turbulent years, and it requires a lot of discipline and resilience. And when I see a founder, it could be a woman or a man saying, okay, now I have $90,000 in revenue. Next year I'm going to do $3 million, and I'm raising $2 million. I can close my eyes. It's probably not going to happen. But I think that women a lot of times they're more about team building. They're less ego-driven, and I think we should really push them to do more because they're fantastic. And it's an era, in light of everything that we shared today, that you don't have to be as technical as you needed to be, perhaps, when I started so many years ago, to really be able to write code and everything. You can write code today with natural language. You can apply, a lot of these disciplines to new markets, to new sectors of consumers. So I'm incredibly supportive, and I want to kind of embrace any woman that starts, an entrepreneurial journey. Say that she can definitely do it, and there's room for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably biased, but I would agree. I think women make the best operators. Just to kind of close out, when you're looking at the next 5 to 10 years, what's the number one underrated sector that you think everybody should be looking at?
Okay, so a fun exercise that I like to do, because I have 5 children, ages 5 to 15, I kind of try to think about the next 10 years and what life would look like and what is going to be like completely obvious to us, right? What is going to be like every day. Not necessarily something that, like before the iPhone was invented, but something we think is completely normal to day-to-day life. And it's also something I'm going to bring home, kind of things you may have heard from the conference as well. I think the way that finance is going to change the world, and potentially, again, with AI support, how people are talking from the fact that capital markets are going to be digitized, how the world is becoming flatter. You can code with natural language. You can bring a lot of financial capabilities really easily. And for us, it's amazing, as we have 60 investors from 60 different countries. We want to collaborate more with the region. We want to make it as easy as possible to invest in technology, to do crossover investments, to create alignment and business strategy across the region. And I think the AI revolution is really going to propel that. That's definitely something to look out for. Would love for you guys to reach out if you want to learn more about iAngels. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We could be here, I'm sure, for a much longer time. I really enjoyed discussing these things with you. Please do make sure to reach out if you want to learn more about venture growth. So thanks so much, Moore.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.